Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Broadsheet Melbourne Around Town. I'm Publications Director Nick Connellan, filling in for Katja Vachtel. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Today we're talking about a big new festival that's come to Melbourne, debuting for the first time this year, Now or Never. It's an initiative of the City of Melbourne and the Victorian State Government combined. And we have a very special guest in the studio, Lord Mayor Sally Capp. Welcome.
Hello, Nick. Thanks for having me.
You have been in the office since 2018. And I think in those years, we've had a lot of movement in the festival space. So we had Boy has launched in 2017, Rising launched in 2020, which was kind of the combination of Melbourne International Arts Festival and White Night kind of shutting down. Now we've got Now or Never, which is the merging of Melbourne Music Week and Melbourne Knowledge Week. What's it all about? Why are we doing it?
Well, firstly, let me say that Melbourne is world-renowned for events, and by their very nature, events need to be dynamic. But we would also never want to be complacent about our situation and reputation as an events capital. And so continuing to reinvent and reinvest and think differently and do differently is absolutely at the heart of the thinking, not just that we do, but of course all of the event organisers, other levels of government. And what a fantastic situation to be in, that we have so much cooperation and really alignment around the fact that we have to keep being dynamic and reinventing ourselves right across the sector. So I'll say that there is a driving force there constantly to always exceed expectations. And pushing the boundaries is what Now or Never is about. It's really pushed the boundaries for us internally as well, Nick. We had two events, Knowledge Week, which is very much about positioning Melbourne as a knowledge capital, quality education, but really asking big questions and invention and innovation and all of those things that happen in the city, and showcasing that for our locals as well as to the world is a really important part of what we do at the City of Melbourne. And then Music Week, which I think was iconic in so many ways and beloved. And we've not just merged them, we've collided them. We've smashed them together to create something, I think, extraordinary, but it's an experiment as well. So that's a mind shift for us as a level of government that's, quite risk averse, is to take some risks and really, I'm a control freak, Nick, but hand over that responsibility, but that opportunity to our team for them to take a homegrown event, and what we hope will become a world-renowned event is starting this year with Now or Never.
I think the key word there is world. We were talking about off mic before a 10-year plan that was put together in 2018 for Melbourne's creative future, and how we can't sit still. We can't just rest on our laurels. We have to compete with the other cities in the world, because like anything, like technology, like agriculture, if you're not investing in these things, you get left behind. And so Now or Never is really a response to that.
It really is, and it's part of that. It's not just an evolution. I'd like to think it's a revolution in many ways. And it's almost prophetic that in 2018 that strategy said we want to be a city that can't stand still or can't sit still, that there's that sense of activity at every dimension. And given that we came to a standstill, and yet events have been the driving force of our recovery, and now back into a mode where we're having bigger crowds than we've ever had before at events right across the city. That ethos and that culture has been so central to our success. Just what is Now or Never? I really struggle to encapsulate it in a few words, but it is arts and ideas, and it's sound and technology. And so it's that mixture of science and curiosity with creativity and arts. But importantly, in the context of saying there's so much that we don't know about the future, but we want to pose those questions now, and we want to be involved in those debates and discussions. And so the program has everything from learning more about black holes and how that may impact us in the future. I listened to David Suzuki on the weekend, a renowned environmentalist, talking about our future through to just immersing yourself in music that you've never heard before in Max Watt's basement or walking through an art trail in Docklands. It's a very expansive program, but it is centred around this sense of curiosity and exploration and acknowledging that creativity has to be part of how we respond to challenges and opportunities in the future, and that we want to be involved and deliberative as a community about how we shape that future.
How do you go about building a festival, not from scratch? I know it had kind of two parent festivals that you, as you said, have collided. But yeah, how do you bring that brand to life? Who was behind the concept and decided this is what it's going to be and this is what it's going to do?
Well, look, this is very homegrown, and we're proud of that at the City of Melbourne. And I do say to groups I've been involved with so far in the festival, please participate and then give us feedback, because this is our first year of doing this and we really are trying new things. We've handed over without the usual 100-point criteria on what we expect at the end, but we do have some key elements that are critical. I mean, one of the big reasons why we do events at the City of Melbourne, and we deliver a lot of major events ourselves as well as supporting other people's events, is because of the way it enlivens the city in so many ways. But it does drive economic activity for our traders. It does make a statement about who we are and what we value as a community. And it does have local but also international elements. So if we think of that in the context of now or never, we set a target. We want at least 200,000 people to come over the course of the 17 days of the festival, and we look to be smashing that already, more than 50,000 people over the first weekend. We've got sold out shows at the Neversphere, which sounds so intriguing, and we're seeing high demand for shows. We really said that there have to be opportunities to support our local artists. So whether it's CC Disco or the Victorian Orchestra, or it's local singers, dancers, Chunky Moves, for example, they absolutely have to be the foundation for the festival, because we're here to support those artists, the local event organisers, agencies, etc. So that formed the core. But we want international acts. We want to bring those people here that will also bring the interest and participation of people around the world, and will inspire locals as well. So having Laszlo Bordos do an incredible visual installation at an iconic place like the Shrine, I can't even imagine what it's going to be, and that's exciting to me. So I will be there next week, at the end of next week at the Shrine, to see that unfold. And I'm really excited that that is a premiere, a world premiere. So we've got commissions that we've invested in for this program that have never been seen before, as well as world premieres.
You mentioned the Victorian Orchestra there. Last night they played a Steve Reich piece from the 70s, which was quite a kind of challenging, minimalistic composition. And I noticed in the program there's a lot of that kind of thing. There are some clubby things and some a bit of punk music happening at the curtain, but a lot of it is really experimental stuff. There's Autechre on the program, which is a kind of experimental IDM techno project from England. There's Actress, who is kind of in a similar vein. What was the thinking behind going down that more experimental or futuristic route, as opposed to going for pop music or kind of people that can fill stadiums?
Well, if we go back to that sense of Knowledge Week and curiosity and as I said, sort of testing, experimenting, then we needed to create, I'd call them juxtapositions or even oxymorons. You know, we've got the Royal Exhibition Buildings, the most historic building in Australia, hosting almost a rave.
I never get sick of going there.
And it's magnificent, but it hasn't hosted music at this scale for more than 2 decades. And there are logistical challenges with doing that, but the team have done brilliantly to make it happen. And so it is that mix of things that we know well or that are well established with something you wouldn't expect in that environment. And I love that, because that gets your brain working. It actually challenges And what we want to do is challenge the status quo. We want to expect that after the biggest disruption in our lifetimes, that as we go forward, we're actually going to tackle some of these issues and challenges in society differently. And to do that, you've got to give a disruption to your normal thought patterns and your normal experiences. And I think that's what the festival is really full of in so many ways. I mean, just to go back to the art trail on the weekend, there were smoke bubbles. I've never heard of smoke bubbles. They were the most magical, brilliant things. And whether it's somebody of my age or a 2-year-old chasing these smoke bubbles to get the full effect, it was absolutely brilliant. And I think this is what the festival is really creating, is a sense of surprise and wonder, and it sparks different things, whether for individuals or groups.
And so it actually wraps up next weekend, which is September 2, which concludes with the Non-Stop Weekend. Tell us what Non-Stop Weekend's all about. It's almost like a sub-festival, correct?
There are 7 key shows across well-known venues such as Max Watts or The Curtain or the Toff. We do encourage people to have a look. I'm purposefully going to go out at 3 a.m. just to see. It's not my normal, but I know it is for others. And just that sense of not standing still, of that frenetic activity, of people really expanding, their own habits, is going to be part of this Non-Stop Weekend again. Acts I've never heard of, and I think that's going to be brilliant.
So is it actually non-stop?
It is non-stop, 48 hours of non-stop programming.
And are we talking that some of the venues had special licensing or an exemption for this particular weekend?
Exactly. We've worked very closely with them. We've also had to think of logistics and crowd issues and all of those sorts of things. So it's a big group effort across the city for 48 hours of non-stop programming. Now, some people might go the whole 48 hours, not for me to question, but I think just being able to come into the city at times you wouldn't ordinarily expect, lunchtime on a Sunday to be having some sort of techno music party, all of those sorts of things I think are terrific. So again, it's that sense of delight and wonder, and it is really to drive new experiences and a sense of excitement about the future.
And the format's really interesting too as well. It's $55 for one ticket on the Friday or $55 for one ticket on the Saturday, but that gets you into all the venues, correct?
Exactly. It's like a super pass, encouraging people to get involved. Again, we've never done anything like this, neither have the artists or the venues, so we're giving it a red hot go. And this isn't just dipping a toe in the water kind of thing for a new festival. We're going full pelt with this festival. We have made a significant investment, $2.7 million, engaged right across the city, locally and internationally for artists. We are giving this a red hot go, and we're hoping that people respond. And actually, it's not just hope. We've already seen it in the first few days. There's just been an incredible response to this festival.
Fabulous. I can't wait to get out there and experience it.
Come on, Nick.
Thanks, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Now or Never is on until September 2. Visit nowornever.vic.melbourne.au for all the details. That's all we've got time for today. As always, you can stay up to date at any moment of any day at broadsheet.com.au or by visiting broadsheet_melb on Instagram. See you next time.